Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Harvest Market. Good morning, everybody out in Facebook Live land. We're here today for Eat Well Tasmania's launch of their Spring What's in Season campaign. My name is Rhys Hannan. I'm the chef de mission for Harvest Market in Launceston. We're going to take you around this morning. We'll do a lap of the market. Going to visit some of our producers that have provided produce for our recipe test, our recipe this morning. And we're going to do a live cooking demo with one of our stall holders. So let's go have a walk around. Oh, yeah, walk in. This is what greets everyone who comes to Harvest Market every Saturday morning from our Tasmania Street entrance. It's a vibrant and happening space, and we're really lucky the sun is out today. So just over here to my left, the wonderful people at Launceston Gardens who have given us some tarragon and some greens and some really cool herbs, some fresh spring thyme for our mushroom demo this morning. So thanks guys for that. Give us a wave, really appreciate it. Cheers. Coming further this way, down into the hub end of the market with our sourdough bakeries, organic dairy products from Andy at Red Cow over on this corner. And we picked up some spring onions earlier from Laos Fresh Farm. These are one of our two big fresh produce stall holders here at Harvest every Saturday. So we've got that. We're going to go this way. Sandy sourdough in the corner, dodging all the punters. It's a nice atmosphere here this morning. Nice and vibrant, lots going on. Plenty of people drinking coffee, having breakfast and buying some of the best produce you can find in Tasmania right here every Saturday. Here's our demo tent getting set up. We've got an ABC News crew rolling in here this morning, so it's all happening. We'll be back to visit our demo tent just a little bit later. Behind Libby over there that you can't see. There we go. Wanderlust are one of our ready-to-eat stall holders, all gluten-free and all vegetarians. Those guys are excellent for you, for tasty, for healthy every Saturday morning. Along with our Soma stage, Willie's playing his accordion over here. Really wonderful to see. Give us a nod. Thank you so much. And as we come this way, you're absolutely into the heart of Harvest Market. We have got some more ready-to-eat stall holders. Anton with his meat, bread and cheese, which is pretty well my favorite for breakfast most market mornings. And then further over here, Annette with a natural garlic and tomatoes. She's given us some smoked garlic as part of our mushroom ragu recipe this morning, which is just going to set it off nicely. Lots of apples, lots of honey, and more pastry down that way, which is absolutely brilliant. Walking further up into the market, we've got our wonderful volunteers manning the harvest tent. We've got our FOGO bins, which have been an excellent thing for us in helping us deal with waste and helping us push towards a zero waste market. Here are our wonderful Harvest volunteers manning this tent. Give us a yell, Harvest volunteers. Give us a wave. Thank you. The irrepressible Kimmy's over there having a great time. Yay! There we go. And coming up into the other half of this wonderful market, coffee, essential every morning. These guys are here so early to get set up and get organized and make sure we're all awake and caffeinated properly. This run of stalls up this way. Let's have a little walk. Give us a wave, Marcus. One on the slide. There he is. Give us a wave. How's it going? This is our ready-to-eat run up here. This is where everyone gathers for their breakfast before they go and do their shopping down in the other end of the market. Delavale gelato. I mean, ice cream for breakfast? Absolutely. No question about it. And we'll keep walking and walking and walking. There's so much to see at the Harvest Market every Saturday. We really like to keep the variety and really like to keep the locality for everybody. Hide, Lydia, good morning. Small Grain, these guys are amazing. Started at the market and have been developing ever since. Morning guys, give us a wave. How's it going? Up to the top end, we've got two of our longest standing and oldest and most amazing stall holders here. Elgar Farm to my right, producing amazing dairy products and a wonderful range of Southern European and Alpine cheeses. Look at them. If that doesn't make you want some cheese and a glass of wine, I don't know what will. Good morning, Joseph. Thank you. And over on this side, to my left, We call these guys the fish tragics. It's a term of endearment, I promise. But they show up every morning and they line up deep, deep, deep to get some of the freshest, most amazing seafood from Rhys at Georgetown Seafoods just behind you. Few people in this state are serving and producing seafood as fresh as what Rhys does every morning. If you come down early enough, you'll see Rhys wandering around in his gumboots, grabbing a coffee and saying g'day to everybody. It's really, really cool. Come this way through the line. Thanks, guys. How's it going? Hey, good morning. Good morning. I'm back up for a run down the other side of the market. More bakeries. The guys from Tas Juice Press, these guys fix a lot of people's hangovers on a lot of Saturday mornings, which is excellent. Myself included, once or twice, I admit. Let's have a walk further down this way where we're going to go and meet Michael from Mr. Brown and Town's Mushrooms, who have provided the key hero feature ingredient for our recipe demo today, which is going to be a mushroom ragu, a highly versatile and amazing little dish made entirely with produce here from the Harvest Market and featuring this gentleman's amazing, wonderful specialty mushrooms. Let me just come and introduce you.
Hi, Rhys.
G'day, mate. How you going? Great to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Everybody out there in Facebook land, everybody here at the market, this is Michael, the tea in Mr. Brown and Town's Mushrooms. How you going this morning?
Pretty good. Yeah, we've got a good turnout here, so it's great to see everyone out about supporting the Launceston produce. It's great.
Cool. Do you want to just give us, just grab a box of mushrooms for us? We'll do it this way. Just grab yourself one of those boxes there. Nice, pretty one.
We're going to rock with one of these.
You want to come for a walk with me down to our demo tent? We can get going. Cool. And we were talking earlier, you said that you'd been selling to some of Launceston's, quick wave to Robin, here at Pinch of Tasmania, has given us some pepperberry salt to go in our recipe this morning, which is just going to be a little tweak, a little addition, be absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Robin. You said you'd been selling to some local restaurateurs before you got started at Harvest.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about what the chefs have been picking up around Launceston.
Yeah, so we started selling to restaurants, and chefs have pretty high standards, which is a good thing for us. It helped us to ensure that we were sort of producing a pretty high quality product before we came to Harvest. And since coming to Harvest, we've been here 12 months now, and it's been really good for me and Ferg to sort of engage with the community, find out what people want to know about mushrooms, and to be able to answer those questions that people want to ask,
For sure. And Ferg is your business partner and housemate?
Ferg is the Brown and I'm the Town. Business partner, housemate and work colleague. Hey, it's the
triple threat.
I know. We started off, we lived together for 12 months, and during that process of starting the business, it was really important for us to make sure that we were compatible. And so we made it through that period of time in our lives, and it helped us to really develop a pretty close connection.
Awesome, that's awesome. I've lived with a business partner in a past life as well, and you find out very quickly how compatible you are, both in terms of life and running the business. But you guys seem to have absolutely made that little partnership work, and that is evident when you stop and you look at the mushrooms that you guys are producing.
Cheers.
So thank you so much for joining me to do this little demo and conversation this morning. Really appreciate it. Now, no one wants to see me stand around and cook onions for too long, so what I'm going to do is start the mushroom ragu recipe by sauteing off some of our spring onions, some of our smoked garlic from Annette at Tas Natural Garlic, and in some of the olive oil from Alan at the Village Olive Grove. And while I'm doing that, do you want to give us a little bit of a background about how Mr. Brown and Towns came to be growing all these awesome specialty mushrooms?
Sure thing.
And give us a rundown on what's here as well.
Yeah. So we are about 2 years into growing mushrooms, and me and Ferg were at a similar point in our lives where we were ready to commit to something, and there's a lot of opportunity in Tasmania, and so it came about an opportunity that was presented to us, and we looked at each other and we were like, do we want to take this? Do we want to do this? Do we want to commit to this? Because it is a commitment. The mushrooms are quite fussy and they require a lot of our attention. So it's been 12 months growing, and we don't regret making that decision. There's so much job satisfaction that comes from being involved in this industry, so we really love it.
That is excellent. I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that, in that I know the sort of commitment that it takes to run just a business and the attention that that requires, but not only are you having to pay attention to your business and what it requires, you've got to physically love and care for the products you sell as well. So it's a double threat for you.
You do, yeah.
That's an excellent way of putting it.
So, I don't have children yet, but these are what I consider to be my babies.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I was like, I don't have children yet, but running a business is not dissimilar in a lot of ways.
All right.
Hey, so Liv, come in just quickly here. You can see in the olive oil we've got spring onions and some smoked garlic just sauteing away. The next thing that we're going to add is we're going to start with the lion's mane and the white oyster mushrooms. Am I getting both of those right?
You are.
Excellent.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the lion's mane? That's probably one that not a lot of people have seen in the past.
Indeed. The lion's mane initially started as a medicinal mushroom, and it's made its way into the gourmet food sort of culinary aspect just due to its unique texture. And so when we're talking about mushrooms, chefs, Rhys in particular, are going to use them for a few different reasons. The texture is really, really important when it comes to cooking food. The way that the food feels in our mouth is an important sense for the pleasure, of eating our meal. We've also got flavour, naturally, is an important aspect. And then to top that off, we're looking at not only are mushrooms delicious, they're extremely healthy for you. So they're kind of a full package, but chefs are going to choose mushrooms based on their texture, on the way they feel in the mouth, the way they present on the plate. So the white oysters are a lot more meaty, they're a lot more fleshier. The lion's mane dices up into cubes, can be a replacement for seafood potentially. Beautiful. And then you've got the king oyster over here, a really unique one. Heavy, firm stem, that can be turned into pulled pork, it can be turned into scallops, it can be skewered and cooked on the barbecue, it can be roasted. The versatility is just amazing, and they're really, really easy to use.
Couldn't agree more with all of that, literally all of it. Just picking up on what you said about texture. Oh, I need to turn this down before it goes too far. And it needs a little bit more olive oil. These mushrooms are going to soak this up a little bit. Easy to add too much. Try to be judicious about it, but it's delicious local olive oil and it's not too bad for you. It just needs a little bit more going on in there. But picking up on what Michael's just said about texture, the reason that we're layering the mushrooms into this dish in the way that we are is some of these varieties are meaty and textural and they can tolerate a lot of cooking, hard and long, but some of them very much super delicate. Their flavors are really delicate and their textures are also really delicate. So we add those closer to the end. In the case of the golden oysters, we're actually just going to let the residual heat from the finished mixture just cook those very delicately at the end. So we'll get to those in a second. But from the textural point of view, I'm putting in earliest the mushrooms that can handle the most cooking and are not going to break down and lose their color, lose their flavor, lose their texture. These ones, okay? I'm going to get you to tell me about these ones because you've told me several times the scientific name for these and I can never remember. I know them as sword's sheath.
Sword belt or pioppino mushrooms. Absolutely delicious. The stem is quite firm and will remain sort of firm, a bit like asparagus if it's cooked correctly. So you're going to get a real nice snap from the stem, a nice crunch to them. They really don't need cooking very long at all. It'll be, you could toss them in hot butter and serve them up on a plate really. So, but the visual component to it, you're not blitzing that up in a blender and mixing it into a lasagna. Like you want that to be presented through your meal for your breakfast or for your ragu.
Yeah, he is absolutely correct about that, everybody, I can tell you. And something like the pioppinos, they have got a really sort of sweet kind of nutty flavour that's very upfront, very aromatic. So they're going to be one of the last additions that we make to this Ragu recipe. The reason that I've chosen to dice the lion's mane, but then to sort of more julienne, the white oyster mushrooms, is for some textural contrast at the foundation of this Ragu. So as we build up the layers of mushrooms, we're going to build up the layers of textures, but we don't want the base to just be straight, mushy base.
Yep.
That's going to ruin the texture of the whole affair. So that's the reason that we've chosen to prepare those two little mushrooms a little differently. Just quickly,
That smells good.
it does smell good, right? At this stage, you're going to add a little bit of salt. That's going to draw out some of the moisture from these mushrooms, and that's going to give us a little bit more liquid to cook with. Otherwise, we're just going to keep adding oil and butter, and you'll end up with kind of a greasier mixture, which is really not what we want. So Robin, over at A Pinch of Tasmania, that we just waved to earlier, she's given us some really cool pepperberry spiced salt. That's just going to add a nice little aromatic dimension to the Ragu. And actually, I really think it's going to set these guys off just perfectly at the end. Yeah, so that's absolutely brilliant. Now, I hear a rumour, Michael, that you are looking at wild harvested shiitakes.
Yeah.
Is that true?
So there's a couple of friends of ours who live on a beautiful permaculture property up in Lilydale, and they've got some amazing shiitake logs that they've been cultivating for over a year now. Shiitake logs are a big time investment. You've got to inoculate them, let them sit for over a year, and then they'll continue to fruit for up to 10 years after that. So, you know, they live in the forest, it's in the wilderness. You can't get better shiitakes in Australia probably, and we're trying to encourage them to bring their produce to the market. So any way that we can help them achieve that is good, because, you know, harvest market's already amazing, but, you know, we just want to bring the best produce to Launceston.
Yeah, you guys want to bring the absolute best that you can, and that's a principle that we find from all of our stall holders at Harvest. They just want to bring the freshest and the best to the market, not only for their business and for their ends, but also just to supply to the adoring public, as it were, because everybody out there is looking for the freshest and the best and the most delicious, as we well should be. Eating in season and eating fresh produce is really important, not only for everything, but it's important for your mental health, your physical well-being, and the flavors that you're serving to your guests or to your family or to whomever you're cooking your food for.
For sure.
Two things that you just mentioned I'm going to pick up on there.
Yep.
Number one, you said time. Mushrooms take a fair bit of time. This is a terrible segue, but time is something you need to put in this. Sorry about that. But talking about spring produce and talking about sort of what's in season, you can see thyme at most of the year is a really woody herb that's kind of annoying to use. You've got to pick the little leaves off. You've either got to pick woody bits of stem out of your whatever dish you're cooking. The beauty of spring and the beauty of spring thyme, again, there's another bad one. The beauty of spring is you can use fresh thyme like it's a fresh herb. All this new growth is just ready to chop and go, which thyme being the wonderful aromatic herb that it is and providing such a good base, mushrooms and thyme are absolutely the best friends in the world. So to be able to use it as a soft herb like that, just benefits everybody. Okay, this is looking awesome. It's time to add some of the next stages of the mushrooms. These guys, the grey oysters, want to tell us a little bit about those? They're an aggressive mushroom, right?
Aggressive mushroom, they grow quite quickly, very easy to cultivate, the greys. Probably one of the more popular mushroom for the chefs that we sell to. The versatility is just incredible, and that's why you can't really go wrong with the oyster combinations. You know, whether you've got blues, pinks, golds, tans, whites. They can all be cooked together. They can all be utilised for a variety of different meals, and it just depends on the way that you want to prepare them. You know, you could. I've seen people make steaks just purely out of flattening weighting down oyster mushrooms in a pan,
That's cool.
marinating them, weighting them down, and then basting them, serving them up.
You could be super lazy like I'm doing and just
Tear them.
literally tear them with your hands and chuck them
with
into
your
a pan, which is very fun. So the reason we're adding these next at this stage is that they're reasonably robust and we want them to cook down a little bit, but we also want to get the flavor and the texture out of them and also more of that moisture, because this is looking a little dry, but that's going to be okay. More of that moisture to come out into our pan and give us more basically to cook with. Moisture and fat in a recipe like this are your conduits between the pan and whatever it is that you're cooking. If you've got no moisture and no fat in this pan, then you're just going to end up ruining whatever's in it. It's going to burn or it's going to dehydrate. It's just not going to be right. So fats and moisture are the conduit between the heat and whatever it is you're cooking.
And you're on a medium heat at the moment, Rhys?
Yeah, medium high at the moment. Like I said, we're trying to get some of that moisture to come out. So medium high, too low and it will just sort of not do much, or stew, which is not
Won't
really
brown
good.
up at all.
Won't brown up at all. You make another good point there. Getting some colour and some fried colour into these mushrooms is a great way of developing their flavour a little bit more.
Yep.
You can choose to not do that, or you can choose to caramelise them quite heavily. Sort of just depends on what you want to do, but it is an excellent way of getting flavour out of the mushrooms in that way. The last one I'd love for us to talk about is these guys, which are insanely pretty to look at, both from a colour and a textural standpoint. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Sure. The pink oysters probably have one of the least amount of moisture out of all the mushrooms that we've got here. They're quite thin and quite woody. I've been doing something really interesting recently, and I've been cooking them in a toasted cheese sandwich maker, right? So flattening them out, you've got high heat top and bottom, plus the weight, a little bit of salt, a little bit of butter, and they turn into chips. We're talking like mushroom chips. They're absolutely delicious. My dad doesn't like mushrooms. I gave him some of these. He went away telling all his friends about it. So they're a really interesting thing to work with. I know that Mad Apple Cafe do a Mr. Browntown's mushroom bowl that feature the pinks. And once again, the texture, it's a little bit firmer. So they're gonna sort of, I'm gonna say, slightly more of a woody texture to them, but absolutely beautiful and quite pungent as well. A lot of flavour.
Yeah, something that's robust like that, that's going to stand up to some, like, in a toasted sandwich maker, that's punishing a mushroom. That's really giving it to it. And so it's interesting to hear. I love hearing new techniques from different chefs around. Like, everyone's got some little idea that you've just never thought of. Cooking pink oyster mushrooms in a sandwich maker is definitely an example of that. The other thing that I've heard rumours about people experimenting with is mushroom jerky. Is that something that you're looking at as well?
It's happening. It's happening in the world. Yeah, mushroom jerky, a strange concept, but the texture of mushrooms allow them to be meat substitutes. You know, mushrooms and mycelium. There's a lot of innovation that's happening within that industry, whether we're talking about meat-free sort of meat substitute meals or products. We're talking about mushroom jerky. We're talking about building products. People are looking at making single-use packaging out of mycelium composite molds. We're talking about textiles, jerky. It's a fascinating industry to be a part of and really exciting.
Yeah, that's excellent. So mushrooms go way beyond just something that's delicious that we can chuck in our omelettes for breakfast or chuck to our risotto mixture for dinner. I heard another one, which was that university was experimenting with how to clean up oil spills, and they gave a bunch of people a bunch of different oils, like in parcels, and said use whatever techniques that you like to try and clean this oil up. And there were lots with bacteria, there were lots with chemical additives, there were lots of different things that they did. But one school, like one research group, inoculated the oil patch with oyster mushroom spore. And they came back, and within 3 months, the mushrooms had cleaned up all the oil. And not only that, they fruited, they'd attracted insects, which attracted birds, which attracted larger animals as well. So they turned an oil spill into a little mini ecosystem inside 3 months using mushrooms, which I think is super, super cool.
Totally.
It goes a long way beyond just our simple mushroom ragu here.
If you have a tree fall in the forest, you know, the fungi network that exists decomposes the tree, and from that decomposition comes fresh plantation, you know, fresh vegetation and new life, and it's a beautiful cycle, and I think that's what attracts a lot of people, sort of amateur mycologists, is sort of the humbling nature of mushrooms and how they exist in nature, and they're such a vital part of the ecosystem. There's a fantastic fungi documentary on Netflix which I encourage everyone to look. It's absolutely mind-blowing, but it just shows you, you know, we're quite lucky to be able to turn them into amazing ragus, but they exist out there in nature and they're doing a wonderful thing for us under the surface of the earth, yeah.
Tell me,
Oh, put it in. Give me a go.
tell me what you think. Oh, I'm going to feed you?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
feed.
one ginger feeding another, everybody. We're nearly there. A bit more
Oh.
salt though, right?
I got that lion's mane there.
Yeah, straight
I love
up.
that you cubed it
Yeah, right.
because
That's what
I filled it.
Cool. That's what I mean about texture. You need, if we just chopped all these mushrooms all the same and bang them in this pan, we're going to have mono texture throughout our ragu, and like that's not what anybody's after, really.
Is that smoked garlic?
It's smoked garlic
Ah.
from a net over there. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
man.
delicious.
Again, another little dimension that we're adding to this. We're nearly there with this.
That
So-
smells incredible.
The reason I'll talk briefly about this recipe, and then you can get going.
Okay.
I'm sure the man's got a stall to man, you know. But the reason that we chose this mushroom ragu recipe to demonstrate this morning is that it's so versatile. We can do loads and loads and loads of different things with this. It's a standalone side dish as it is, on the side with meats, with fish, with chicken, anything really.
Yep.
Standalone dish as it is, just the mushroom. But
Yep.
moving on from that, you can use it as a filling for an omelette. You can use it as a filling for lasagna. You could mix it through a risotto base. You could gratinate it with a little bit of extra butter and some pancrettata and some tarragon. The list goes sort of on and on and on. The lion's
love
manes
it.
you can cut a big steak of and barbecue like it's a Scotch fillet. It really does. They're really, really, really versatile. So
I'll leave you with it.
yeah, I reckon that's pretty good. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Cheers, appreciate
Cheers.
it. Have a
Hang
good
around
one.
out there if you want. I can give you a shout out.
I'll
But
get a bowl
otherwise-
later.
Cool, man. Thanks so much. I'll bring it by. Thanks, Michael, everybody. What to do next? The last thing to do, I guess, is serve up and garnish. So we had the thyme in earlier. That's providing a foundation for some flavour going into the recipe. The last thing we're going to do is add some tarragon, again from Thurlston Gardens over behind me, over there. Wonderful to see tarragon back. You don't see tarragon throughout the winter months, and it's a really perfect spring herb. So just a little pinch. Mushrooms again, mushrooms and tarragon are really, really great friends. So just a little sprig, finely chopped, and we'll put this in towards the ends. We don't want to overcook it. We just want to get it wilted, warmed through, and releasing its flavour into the mixture. Nice and simple. Now we've done this sort of dairy free, but you could add a little bit of cream at this point. You could have a knob of butter at this point. You could add just a little bit of chicken stock or vegetable stock at this point, just to give it a more of a saucy sort of feel. You can, from here, you can go in a lot of different directions. So depends where you want your final recipe to be, depends where you're going with it, but it really is up to you. And there's not much you can do wrong to ruin it from here, besides burning it or, I don't know, adding raspberries or something dumb like that, you know. From here, you're really, really safe. So we've added our tarragon. We've checked our seasoning with Michael earlier. We're really happy about that. I might get it in a plate and I might garnish it, and then we'll be just about ready. And I'm really sorry, you can't eat any of this. I'm not allowed to serve it because we don't have a food license. But you get to look, and if you come and see me sort of behind this a bit later, maybe you'll get a little taste. Don't tell anybody, right? You ready? The money shot. Move this. Don't trip over that.
You can find the recipe if you scan the QR code
Yeah, everybody, the recipe for this and the recipe for a bunch of other market-based content you can find on the Eat Well Tasmania website. You can find in the Eat Well Tasmania ebook that they're releasing very shortly, and you can find it all over the Harvest website in the cards and the QR codes, literally everywhere you're looking at the moment. That's our base mushroom mixture. Now, if we were going to be serving this just as is, which for now we are, I'm just going to garnish with some of these smaller mushrooms rather than cooking with them. Again, like we spoke about, we don't want to ruin the flavor or the texture of these delicate mushrooms, but you can definitely chuck them into the pan to cook them just that little bit if you want, or you could definitely just cook them, use them as a garnish just like this. The other thing that I think is really fun to do with these delicate mushrooms is just dress them in a little bit of salad dressing. The vinegar and the oil will sort of cook them and melt them, for want of a better word. We'll sort of melt them a little bit, and almost like a ceviche, the acid will just sort of take the texture in and will pick up some flavor, and it will just turn it from a raw little product into a nice little marinated, semi-pickled sort of affair. So that's my pro tip for the little delicate ones. But these just provide you a nice last little pop of color and texture to the Ragu. And we know they're up at Mr. Brown and Town's. They've got a co-stall holder called Eden Garden Micro Farm. And Eden Garden Micro Farm produce these amazing little microgreens. These are like, I like to call them the lazy boy garnish. You don't have to do anything. You just grab them, cut them, they're delicious and pretty. So we're just gonna lazy boy garnish this a little bit. Voila! Mushroom ragu. The last flourish, right? No one's complete without a little flourish of like olive oil. This is from Alan at the Village Olive Grove just behind me. One of 3 amazing olive oil producers we have at Harvest Market. All of them have been getting some accolades lately as well, so get along and visit those guys if you're low in the pantry. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Thanks everybody out in Facebook Live Land. Thanks to Eat Well Tasmania. Get around their What's in Season campaign and get around their spring content, especially the ebook that's got a lot of my recipes in there. And thanks to all of our wonderful Harvest Market volunteers that make this happen every week. Thanks so much, everybody. Cheers.